Somebody's here. What's up, people? So, Friday Night Live. Your boy is back. It's been a minute. So, what's up, people? Uh, a lot's been going on. I'm a grandpappy. Yes, my granddaughter has arrived. I've been kind of preoccupied with that, and I gotta apologize, but priorities. You know, the little baby has been taking up a lot of the time because everybody wants some time with the most precious being in the house. But it's a blessing, you know what I mean, to have a new addition to the family. How's your day going, man? Blessed by the best, praying for the rest. I had to go to work, but work wasn't that bad. It was hot today, but it wasn't that bad. Life is good. I woke up this morning. I'm a happy camper. I'm blessed by the best, praying for the rest, man. But like I was saying, I've had a lot going on, and I've been missing my Friday night lives. Usually, my Friday nights 9 o'clock. I'm here, like clockwork. I've been away for a while, but now I'm back. So, I got to get back in the routine. Hopefully, some of my regulars come back through and check in with your boy. It's been a minute. Like I said, a lot been going on. Work. But life is good, family growing. Like I said, grandbaby in the house. Can't wait to get back up in the air and play and just watch and see how she grows and develops. Like I say, life is good. Uh, it's summertime, and it's time is going so fast. It's crazy. We already halfway through this year, so 2025 is almost gone. It's time to start 2026. So what we got coming there, cause me, everything looks gravy for me because I came from a cage. I spent 20 years of my life in the California prison system, not bragging or nothing, but uh, I was stuck up in there. My first offense was armed robbery. I robbed a drug dealer. Drug dealer came to court and said I stole the drugs he was selling out of his house. But hey, I did the crime, I did the time, right? But I figure, once you do the crime, do the time, that's it, it's over with. But nah, that's not the way it is. Not in reality. In reality, the way it is, you do the crime and then you gonna keep doing time. Cause you gonna stay stuck in the system. It's a revolving door. The whole point is it makes money. Prisons make money. They provide jobs, they create economies. It's so much going on. And people don't realize that it's business. It's not about, oh, he stole this, or oh, he did this crime or that crime. Nah, it's about business, because the longer we keep these people inside here, the longer we collect a check. But who's paying this check? Yeah, the taxpayers. Now I'm paying. That's crazy. I'm a taxpayer now. But, I'm paying. I'm blessed. Brett, I see you. Thanks for tapping in. Who else we got? Hi. I see you. Thanks for tapping in. Appreciate you. But nah, like I'm saying, like I spent over 20 years in the California prison system, and it wasn't by choice. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. That's part of part of growth. When you make mistakes, you learn lessons. That's how people learn lessons. That's how I was taught. That's how I learned a whole bunch of lessons. I'm still working on lessons. I'm trying to, constantly grow and educate and move forward and move up. And like I said, this is the longest I've been out of prison since I was 9 years old. That's not a lot, but for me, it's a lot. Because you got to think about it. I'm 53 years old, and I done spent almost half my life in some kind of cage or confinement. But I don't have to do that no more. You know what I mean? I'm out here living my best life. I got a job. I got married. I got a family. I'm out here living my best life. This is the best I've ever been doing, the most I've ever had. And I don't have much. I don't have, everything, but I came from nothing. Hi, I'm new. Cool beans. Hey, thanks for tapping in. Uh you new? Hey, I don't mind. I like new people. Trump supporter. Are you no, you on the wrong channel. You are on the wrong channel. No, I'm not really political. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't trust either side. I think they both sides of the same coin. They both part of the same system. And the system is what needs to be corrected. It's, you know what I'm saying, there's flaws. It's imperfect. It was made by man. What do you expect? We can only do what we can do. So you do the best you can, and if everybody did that, it'd be a better place. But everybody don't do their best. Most people just, just get through, give the whatever effort they can, and it doesn't even matter. Said hi, Micah. Hi, I see you. I see. uh Nah, it's so much going on, you know what I mean? I try not to get into politics because I don't know how all this stuff works. Bay Area tapping in. Thanks for tapping in. I can't see the name. Don't mind me, you know what I'm saying? The eyes going back, getting old. Don't tell nobody though, you ruin my reputation. Uh uh But the Bay Area tapped in. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like I got people. I can't wait to get up there. I know it's hot right now, but I can't wait to get up there. I got some folks up there in Sac, so I need to get up that way, you know what I'm saying, and visit the fam and do some fishing. First time I went up there, my wife's sister and father live up there. And I had to go up there for work, so we got to visit family. And I found out about all the fishing. I didn't even know. I didn't even know they had sturgeon. That was my first time finding out. These big old giant prehistoric fish. Yeah, I want to catch me a 6 foot long fish. So that's on my bucket list. So now, you know what I'm saying, I got to get back up to Sac and get some fishing in. But it's coming, you know what I mean? Everything, you know what I'm saying? Everything in due time. Right now, I've been, you know what I'm saying, focusing, I had shoulder surgery last year. I came back 100% from that. I'm back at work, you know what I mean? Life is good, you know what I mean? Family good, family's growing. I got a granddaughter. She's in the house right now. I want to go up in there and goo goo and gaga with her. But you know what I'm saying, I gotta give y'all some time too. I've been lacking on y'all and I apologize. But you know what I'm saying, I'm back. So you know what I'm saying, Friday nights you can check your boy, you know what I'm saying, I'm here. So I was talking about how I spent over 20 years stuck in a cage, and it 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 mentally it messes with me, because I still, kind of do things like I'm still incarcerated. I consider going to work and coming home and staying at the house and taking care of my responsibilities. I'm programming. In prison we call that programming when you go to your assigned job or education or whatever, you know what I'm saying, slave labor they have you doing while you're incarcerated. Then you go take care of it and then come back. You know what I'm saying, Duka, how's it going, Snow? Good to see you, man. It's been a long time, man. You know what I'm saying, from Australia, right? yeah, you know what I'm saying? So what was that? So after being inside of a situation like that, it messes with you, and certain things is that's right. Certain things trigger, because you think things are supposed to be a certain way. I was trained, from childhood. My first incarceration. I was 9 years old. I shot somebody. I shot the guy that broke my mom's jaw, and I ended up going to jail. But I only went for one day. But I was a 9-year-old kid. You know what that does to a 9-year-old kid? They put me in the little juvenile hall. I was in a tank by myself. I wasn't around nobody else. I was only in there, you know what I'm saying, for like 4, 5 hours. But that 4, 5 hours was fucking with me. I was up in there crying like a little girl. But I was 9 years old. So, you got to give me, some slack on that one. You know what I'm saying? I was 9. And I was in jail. So, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going on, but one thing led to another. And I don't know, but that started my life of crime. And because once you're in the system, you're a part of the system. And now you're a paycheck for the system, you know. And I always thought about that. When I was on parole, the parole officers, they didn't want you to get off parole. They didn't want you to do good. When you fuck up and go back to prison, that's job security for them. Hmm. Wait a minute. So, it ain't even about whatever I do. No matter what I do, the system is stacked against us. So I learned from my mistakes, and I learned how to do something different. I got out and got a job, you know. And one of the main things is I see a lot of people out here and they don't want to give up the Jeff the Surfer. No, I am not a Trump supporter. Not a political guy, period. Don't like either side. They're both sides of the same flawed system, the same corrupt system that, they do what they want to do, and they feather their own nest. Basically, I believe that's what politicians do. They feather their own nest, they take care of themselves, and then that's it. They don't care about the people, and I'm the people. Same. I'm neutral. That's right. That's right. I think more people. Everybody want. Oh, I'm on this side. Oh, I'm on this side, but you're both part of the same problem. We need to find a difference. Some different. I'm not saying I know best and I know everything, but I'm saying we need to work together and do something different. This ain't working. I'm from the community. I'm from the big ass C. What I'm saying, I'm from Southeast San Diego. I'm a trench. Excuse me. I'm a trench baby. I grew up in Southeast San Diego in the hood, and I was taken in by the community. When I was a kid, I came from a dysfunctional family. Father was alcoholic. He had issues. He did the best he could, but he had issues. So, what I'm saying? I used to blame him for a lot of my bullshit. But, what I'm saying? I take responsibility, what I'm saying, for all the bullshit I did because I did a whole bunch of stupid stuff. But that led me to where I am. Everything you go through uh, gets you to where you are. Those are all steps on the path of your journey. Everybody's journey is different. I can't speak on nobody else's journey. I can only tell you about mine. And I've had an exceptional journey. So far, I think I've had an exceptional journey. I grew up one of the only white boys in an all black neighborhood, got picked on all the time. Ended up, you know what I'm saying, joining the neighborhood Crips, uh, uh, becoming a factor. You know what I mean? Like when I was a kid, all I wanted was a name and a reputation. People don't understand. I just wanted a name and a reputation, nothing else. Just that. Different wings of the same bird. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I just wanted a name and a reputation. And when I was a kid, that was all. That was all I wanted. And now I got it in the hood, in you know what I'm saying, in San Diego, in prison, in California prison system. It's people that out of state and in other states is like, yeah, man, I heard about you when I was a kid, and you know. But I say in San Diego, you know what I'm saying, I'm kind of known. I'm not I'm not here bragging, but you know what I'm saying, I'm known in the prison system. If you talking about a white boy crip, you know what I mean, I'm one of the only ones to do it to the level that I've done it. One of the only ones to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4, you know what I'm saying, and parole and walk out the door, you know what I'm saying, standing tall. No PC, no protective custody, no, you know what I'm saying, SN sensitive needs yards, none of that. Now, every prison I ever went to, they tried to put me in PC. They tried to put me in protective custody. They tried to put me in some kind of uh, safety play. Man, I put me on the main line. I don't care. Drop me off any. I'm a deal with it. And I'm not no tough guy. I was scared, but I'm not fisting to switch up and change. This is how I came. This is how I was raised, and this is how I'm gonna keep pushing. And if you got a problem with it, you know what I mean. You can get dealt with. Because I'm pushing a hard line. I'm a Crip and I'm white, so. I already, you know what I'm saying, I got like the Nazis, the skinheads, and the Aryan Brotherhood, you know what I'm saying, having hits out on me. I'm you know what I'm saying, as soon as I hit county jail, you know what I mean, I'm getting into fights and one thing after another, and I'm a Crip, so I'm not going in the cell with no white boy. You put a white boy up in my cell, we get down. And after one or two, the other ones wasn't going in there. So now the police, it's overcrowding. So they need, you know what I'm saying, the cell space. And I don't have a problem. You put anybody up in my cell. But now the white boys were saying, no, they ain't going up in there. So they didn't have no white boys that would go into my cell. So then they asked black dudes. So then they got two of my homies, you know what I'm saying, who said so they moved two black dudes up in my cell because there was 3-man cells in South Bay. This was back in 1991, in South Bay County Jail when South Bay was high power. So anyway, so I was up in there for months because I was going to court fighting my armed robbery case and I was going to trial. So I was up in there for some months, going to court and, you know what I'm saying, come back, wait a month and go back to court and then come back and then wait 2 weeks and then go back. And just, sitting up in that tank it's a stress program up in there, because South Bay is like underground, we have recycled air. We don't get out. We don't go outside, period. There is no outside, nothing. You want to exercise, you got the day room in the dorm and that's it, so. But we make do, you know what I'm saying? It was routines and people had workouts and all kinds of stuff. People was taking a trash can, just a regular, you know what I'm saying, Rubbermaid trash can, and then putting water in it. And then using that to curl, as weights. You know what I mean? And it's something, whatever you can do, because people take plastic bags and fill them up with water and make a water bag and roll up, like some magazines real tight and put them through a t-shirt that's wrapped around the plastic bags. And then you got the handle of the magazines wrapped around the weight of the water bag so you can lift and get your exercise on. You know, people do whatever, you know, push-ups, burpees, and you know, and the whole mentality is you trying to get ready because you don't know when there's going to be a ride. You don't know when somebody's going to try and take your manhood. You don't know when somebody's going to come and try and take your canteen. You know, it happens like that. You know, you might go to the canteen, your family send you some money. So you go to the canteen, you done spent, you know what I'm saying, you know, all you can spend. And now you got all this canteen and everybody's watching you. Because we're hungry too. So now, you know, it depends on the person, how you react, how you deal with it, how you know what I'm saying, you know, react. Because, you know, somebody's going to try you one way or another. And, you know what I'm saying, you either going to fight for your stuff or, you know what I'm saying, you know, or you just going to get beat. And I done seen people, you know, that just got beat. And that's the way it was sometimes, you know, because the numbers will get you every time. And that's the thing, you know, man, look, I done seen some crazy. Everett, watching. Watching us facts, especially when we look like us. Okay, I don't know what you look like, but you look like us. Nah, but so, you know, like I said, you know, when you inside, you you trying to, you know what I'm saying, you know, prepare yourself for battle every day. You know, do some push-ups. You know, we used to do deck of cards. You know, you flip over the cards and each card has a number value. You know, think about it, you know, you go from 1 to 10. And then when you get to 10, you get a jack, that's 11. A queen is 12. A king is 13. So on and so forth. So, when you flip over the cards, that's how many push-ups you do. And you do the whole deck, you know, one card at a time if you want, or a couple cards at a time. You just keep going until you knock the whole deck out. And it's just, you know what I'm saying, you know, getting ready, you know what I mean, machine in motion, you know what I mean. You never know when there's going to be a riot, when there's going to be somebody coming to take your canteen. Or somebody coming to take something that's a little more precious to you. You know, my first day in county jail, some guy told me he was going to take something I wasn't willing to give up. It didn't work out well for him, you know what I'm saying? It went well for me because I was able to keep all my stuff. But he wasn't able to, he lost a lot of bodily fluids through his facial area. But, you know, that's another story. Anyway, no, you know what I'm saying? You know, I survived because, you know, I was used to fighting. You know, I grew up fighting all the time. You know, I was in the special class in elementary school because I kept getting into fights. But like I said, I was one of the only white kids in the whole neighborhood, so I kind of stood out a little bit, let's just say. And I'm, you know, I got tired. I got tired of taking shit from people, and so I started fighting back. And one thing led to another, and I found out, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm all right, you know what I'm saying, you know, from the shoulders. So, you know, and once I realized that, you know what I'm saying, getting hit don't really hurt, you know, until the next day, maybe. But when you get hit, that shit don't hurt. Just keep going. And keep going until the other person says stop. You know, and that's the thing, you know, stopping, once that person says it, that's another thing altogether. But that's what we should do. You know, I'm trying to stand tall, I'm trying to be a better me. But like I say, you got to constantly work on yourself. You know, if you don't work on yourself, then you can't be at your best. You know, I always try and upgrade. I always try and push myself. You know, and that's physically, mentally, spiritually, I'm going to push myself. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to fold up. I'm not going to stop once I set my mind to doing something. And for people that know me, you know, uh, uh, I still have issues with, you know, like freedoms. I'm still, you know, I have PTSD. I have a whole bunch of issues. Like I said, I got issues like tissues. But I done had issues to where like I be in a crowd and I'll have a panic attack because it'll be too many people. And, you know what I'm saying? You know, because like I said, I done been stabbed 13 times. I done been in more fights than I can remember. And most of the times when you stab me, they came up from behind. Most of the times they ain't coming up. There's a hornet's nest in front of me because I'm swinging. And I'm, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm putting some power behind it. I'm a big guy. I'm not a little guy. So, you know, it was crazy. I remember, you know, there was a riot in county jail with the South Side Hispanics and the Pisces. So it was all of them. And it was the Mexicans against the blacks and me, you know, because I was with the blacks. But it was crazy because, you know, they were like everywhere. You know, every time you turn around, it's a crowd, little crowd, short crowd, but it's a crowd, you know. And at one point, there was another dude. Dude was like 6'5", and I saw him in the middle of like a crowd of Mexicans, and I seen a trash can go flying over. The trash cans are plastic, so they're not really gonna do anything. But it was just a picture that I saw, you know what I mean? Because this dude is like 6'5", plus he got a high top fade. So he's already, you know what I'm saying, working on a kid and play high top fade. So that makes him another 4 or 5 inches taller. So he looks huge, surrounded by all these little Hispanics, you know. But they was stabbing the shit out of him. You know, it was a fucked up situation. I got stabbed 3 times in that riot. They had plans. They closed doors on certain cells of like there was the gambling shack where the guys shoot dice. All the youngsters is up in there, you know, the riders. They up in there, you know what I'm saying, shooting dice, bullshitting around, and somebody comes and closes the door, and now they're locked in that cell. And then the riot kicks off, so they couldn't help. So it was planned. They knew they what they was doing. Slum kid and play. Yeah, kid and play with the high top fade, the food head, and plus, you know what I'm saying, you know, the dude's already 6'5". On top of that, he got the high top fade, so that's like 6'8". But anyway, you know what I'm saying, you know, it was sad because he got stabbed like 23 times. I got stabbed 3 times. There was some other it was a couple bloods that was involved in the riot, you know, and you know what I'm saying, you know, they just attacked the blacks, so they don't care whether you Crip, Blood, or whoever, you know what I mean, you know, if you black, you don't even have to be affiliated, you know, you're getting, you know what I'm saying, when it's a racial issue like that, you gotta be, that's why you work out, that's why you get ready, that's why you prepare yourself. Did someone fight the 6 foot tall dude? The 6'5" dude was surrounded by Mexicans, but they weren't above his chest. They were short. So, I mean, you know, you see him standing up trying to fight them off, but they're all down low, stabbing the shit out of him. He got messed up. He got stabbed a bunch of times. It was, like I say, it was a bad situation. But you know, anytime you get into a riot, it's not really gonna be a good situation. You know, I don't know. I done been in a bunch of them. I done been stabbed. During my prison time, that was county jail. I was in prison for 20 years and I got stabbed 13 times. You know, and not all of them. Some of them were just scratches. You know, one guy, he had like a nail melted into an ink pen. And, you know what I'm saying, you know, he stabbed me in the arm, like right here. I got a little tiny scar, but, you know what I'm saying, he broke the skin. He stabbed me with the damn nail, but it just did barely, you know what I'm saying, you know, broke the skin. But you never know. People talk about they'll put this on, put the knife in this, and did someone, you got stabbed by Mexicans or whites? I got stabbed by both. During that riot, that was Black and Mexican riot. So I got stabbed by Mexicans in that riot. But in prison, I got stabbed by whites. Yeah. So it was all whites while I was in prison, because in the California prison system, you know, I'm considered a race traitor because I'm in the cell with a black person, and I live and I eat. You know, in there they got rules. You're not allowed to eat, drink, or smoke after a black person, you know, and I live in the cell with them, so what? But there was a lot of people, you know, while during my incarceration, like I said, I did over 20 years. Excuse me. Not bad manner, just good grub. So, like I said, I did over 20 years in the California prison system. I can't speak for nobody else and how it is in other places, but in the California prison system, it's real racial. I believe it's kept that way so that they can keep the inmates fighting ourselves so that we can't fight against them. Because as long as we're against each other, we can't get together to go against them because they're already outnumbered. I understand the psychology of it. SnowRoc, the one and only. Yes, sir. Thanks for tapping in. Monkey Wrench. Thanks for tapping in, brother. So in prison, I spent most of my time just trying to survive, you know, and when I got sentenced to 9 years, and that's when I went to level 4, and I ended up doing 12 years, you know, on the 9 years. Have you been to Corcoran? Yes. I went to Corcoran on my first term. I went to Corcoran in 1992. I was there for almost about 2.5 years. I paroled in 1994. So Corcoran was a really bad place during the 90s. I had an altercation where I got into it with one officer, and he was talking smack. I was talking smack, and one thing led to another, and I told him, take your badge and gun off and bring your bitch ass up in this cell. And so he took his badge and gun off and brought his bitch ass up into my cell. And guess what? He tried to grab me and wrestle. Oh, wrong move. I'm making him bounce off of this locker, bounce off of this wall, bounce off the bunk, bounce off the wall. I made him touch everything in the cell, and then I ended up getting him in a sleeper, and he tapped out. When he tapped out, I let him go. Okay, I don't want to kill the police. You know, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm a young kid, you know what I'm saying? You know, so I let him go. Man, that was my mistake. He left about the cell. I thought it was over with. Nah, it wasn't over with. Because, you know what I'm saying, you know, your door don't open unless you're cuffed up. Duca, good looking out, man. Appreciate you, bruh. Thank you, bruh. Thank you. Yeah, man. So I had what is it? So the CO gave me a head up fade, and then afterwards, it's 3 a.m, and my cell door opens up. I get up, no lights on or nothing. I didn't hear them come in. You know, I was asleep. I'm knocked out. Man, it was like 5 police, and I'm a big guy, but these dudes made me look little. They came up in there and they just bull rushed me to the back of the cell and then drugged me down and held me. I'm talking about one dude holding one leg, one dude holding the other leg, one dude holding one arm, one dude holding the other arm, and it was one or two of them, one kicking me and the other one was beating me. I didn't know what a flapjack was, but somebody told me, you know what I mean? You know, all I know is I had blue, purple marks all over my body. They didn't hit me in my head or my face, but from my shoulders to my feet, they beat me. And I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, you know, I was kicked in the nuts so many times, I was pissing blood for 2 weeks. They wouldn't let me see a doctor, none of that. And then they asked me, oh, you know what I'm saying, do you know anything about, you know what I'm saying, you know, some officers coming in and doing something to you? On recording, they want me to say something. And if I say something, they would have probably killed me. Because back then, the police in Corcoran were doing a lot of people dirty. Have you ever seen someone famous in the pen, rapper, etc.? Well, that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? You know, does J.O. felony count? You know what I'm saying? You know, I done been in the pen with a bunch of people that rap, you know, and a lot of people that rap, you know, my homeboy, you know what I'm saying? You know, we go way back. We was in juvenile hall and juvenile camp together, and now J.O. Felony, he was on Def Jam Records back in what, 94. So, you know what I mean? You know, he's still doing music to this day. I was just in his video. He did a video with a dude, Big June, called Set. Go check it out. I'm in the video. You know, I'm behind J.O. Felony. J.O. Dev counts. So anyway, you know what I'm saying? You know, I guess J.O. counts. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, you know, I got a couple homies, you know what I'm saying, you know, who rap. You know, I got my homeboy Cricket, you know what I'm saying, he's the super producer. He was working with MC Hammer before he went broke. He was on tour with MC Hammer. I remember him telling me stories about I think he went to Japan, all over, you know what I'm saying? They was all over the country. You know what I mean? You know, I was like, man, that's crazy, you know. And Hammer came to the hood one time, you know what I'm saying? You know, we was young. We was out there, you know what I'm saying, slanging it here as MC Hammer with the homeboy. In the limo, in the hood. What? Man, that's what I'm talking about. But nah, you know what I'm saying, you know, I know some famous people to this day, you know what I mean? You know, I'm out here and like I say, the dude Big June, and for people that don't know, Big June is a blood. So Big June is a blood from San Diego, and this set with J.O. Felony. This will be my second video with that I did with in Big June's video. I was in Footprints, and then I was in Set. So you know, I'm trying to. It's a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's bridges being built between the Crips and Bloods in San Diego, where we coming together, trying to, you know what I'm saying, work together more on a peaceful, you know what I'm saying, you know, positive note. Yeah, I'm from Skyline. Jew, my big homie. Oh, nah, like movie stars and all that? Nah, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't in those, I was, oh, JD. JD from the Lynch Mob, nah, he ain't really famous. But you know what I'm saying, you know, nah, I guess I don't know real no actors or nothing like that. But I wasn't in the see, they have those people like Suge Knight, they go to a special prison, and Richard Downey Jr. and people like that, they go to special places, you know, for people, you know what I'm saying, you know, who have special needs. And like I said before, you know what I'm saying, you know, the whole time I was in prison, the administration was trying to put me in admin. First it was called PC, which is protective custody. Then they changed it to sensitive needs yard. You know, and I'm not going to none of that. You put me on the line and I'll deal with life however it is. And that's how I lived out there, you know, for real. I'm not, I'm still here. I figure, you know what I'm saying, the man upstairs kept me here for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but I figure he kept me here for a reason. And every day I wake up thanking him and asking him to show me what you want me to do and give me the strength to get it done. And every day, you know what I'm saying, you know, he keeps me going. You know, I done been through so much. I done been shot. I done been shot once. I done been stabbed 13 times. I drove a quad off the side of a mountain, got life flighted to the hospital, broke my back in 2 places, arm broke, nose broke, toe broke, got up and walked out the hospital that day. Not bragging, it was the Percocets. No, I was fucked up. Yeah, that was the worst. That's when I realized I was indestructible. I just decided, okay, it's time to stop testing it. Testing it hurts. But you know, like I said, you know, everything that I've been through has got me to where I am. Where I am is right here, talking to you. Hopefully somebody's listening and somebody can take some of this and use something I got, something I'm saying to help them get to the next level. Help them to keep pushing forward because it gets better no matter where you at. I done been on the bottom. I done been with nothing. You know, I got put out on the streets at 13 years old and I didn't have nothing. And I went from living in the clubhouse in the canyon to 14 years old. I had my own apartment. You know, I was doing dirt, I was selling dope, but you know what I'm saying, you know, I was spreading my hustle. I still think it's funny how you use change TV. What the hell? Who the hell talk? That's crazy. You gotta understand. Look, it's some of my videos. I know I got a picture of a cell, of the cells, the type of cells that we were in. So if you're laying on the bunk and the TV is on the locker, you know what I mean? You know, literally, I'm leaning back with my head on the wall. So now my leg, I'm 6'3". So my foot can stretch over and touch the TV and change the channel and turn it up, turn it down, and turn it off. But only somebody who been in a cell with me knows about that because that was my remote control. It worked. Hey. Nah, but you know what I'm saying? You know, my boy is clowning. But thanks for bringing it up. I guess they got the fireworks going off. What's that going on? Holiday? Sound like fireworks, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They was talking about Camp Pendleton got noise thing because they're doing live fire training or some other stuff. So I don't know what it is. Sound like fireworks, but it's a little too late for fireworks. Usually fireworks at 9 o'clock. I can hear the SeaWorld fireworks every night at 9 o'clock from the house. Yep, I hear them. SeaWorld, big homie. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's like every night at 9 o'clock. And then I hear they be fucking up the fishing, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I be out there fishing, man. Y'all might have to stop all that firework bullshit. Don't be messing with my fishing. Nah, I'm hoping I get to go fishing, you know what I'm saying? You know, one of these days soon. Man, life is good, though. Life is good, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've been out here working, and it was sad because, you know what I'm saying, one of the guys I work with, he got fired today, and he kind of went off. You know, he was a little butthurt. What you think about the hoodie hood going to folks? What do I think about Hoodie Hood going up to LA fucking with the 40s? Man, Hoodie, do your damn thing, man. That's my little homie. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the homie want to do, he grown. You know what I mean? You know, he gonna do what he do. I love my homies, you know what I'm saying, but you gotta be a man first. And whatever, you know what I'm saying, you choose to do, you choose to do it. You know what I mean? Don't let nobody dictate. So if that's what he chooses to do, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, I'm cool. But at the same time, he's, you know what I'm saying, he's active. I'm an old man, you know what I'm saying, I'm a grandpa. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying, hang out with no gangbangers. I spent, you know what I'm saying, over 20 years in a cage, you know what I'm saying, hanging out. I'm cool. I'm trying to hang out with my family, man. I'm surrounded by women. I got a wife, I got a mother-in-law, I got auntie, I got two daughters, I got a granddaughter. I'm just surrounded by women, and this is the way I'm good. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I see the guys when I go to work. I see the guys when I come out to hang out. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I'm a happy camper, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I say it every day. I'm blessed by the best and praying for the rest. Because life keeps getting better. Like I say, family growing, you know, uh, granddaughter here. Life is good, man. Life is good. I don't get to go as fishing as much as I want, but that'll come too in time. Everything comes in time. I'm not rushing. I'm American. I seen your No Jumper episode. Do you think Adam is on the bullshit or he just doing content? He trying to get paid. Adam about his money. You know what I mean? I went up there. They got their whole little shit. You know what I mean? They shit is, you know what I'm saying, professional. I respect, you know what I'm saying? Look, I'm a small time hustler out here trying to make it compared to what they doing. You know what I mean? But I was up in there, you know what I'm saying, soaking up game, looking at this and that. You know what I mean? Like I say, I need to find some assistance, somebody that got some, you know what I'm saying, tech savvy that wanna do work. White Denzel. Snow from NYC. Good looking out, NYC, for tapping in, man. Appreciate you. Nah, you know what I'm saying, life keeps getting better. You know what I mean? Your boy is getting old. But hey, I'm still, you know what I'm saying, I'm still working on a lowrider. I ain't got it going yet. Money's funny and credit won't get it. But like I said, life is good, man. You know what I'm saying? I got everything I need. I don't have everything I want, but it's coming. All I got to do is wait and be patient. Uh, um, every day, life keeps getting better. I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for me, but life keeps getting better. You know what I mean? I got a job. You know what I mean? Like I said, I just seen somebody lose their job, and it's hard because they cutting people. Why they cutting people? Because it's not a lot of work. People got, you know what I'm saying, it's a lot still going on. The company is still going, but the San Diego isn't really doing good. Yo, Snow, can you give a top 3 white boys you respect behind them behind Goldie Low. Goldie Low, he's, you know what I'm saying, he's the only one that I know, you know what I'm saying, done more than me, and he was on death row. And, you know what I'm saying, I heard they just let him off death row. So, you know what I'm saying, Goldie Low definitely, you know what I'm saying, from Park Village. But, you know what I'm saying, it's white boys from all over the place. You know what I mean? Now at the same time, it's white boys that have fell off. So, you know what I mean, um, everybody that stands up and stands tall through it all, I give respect to. It's not about one person or another. I don't have a top 3. I know Goldie, you know what I'm saying, then I think me, and then, you know what I'm saying, I can't really say, you know what I'm saying, because I don't know. I don't know nobody who's done it. You know what I mean? It's other white Crips. I done been on the yard. I don't know whatever happened to him, but it was one from Sacramento, Popcorn. Popcorn was with me in Corcoran. He got into some shit, you know what I mean, and left. So we didn't get a lot of time, but I met him and he was straight. He got down and handled his business. And, I never heard from him again. I don't know what happened. And I hope, all went well. But, inside those cages, people lose their lives. I had homies that laced me up and gave me game on how to survive. I got my big homie Guy, and my big homie Guy laced me up when I first got to Corcoran, and he taught me how to survive in prison, and that I was able to use, and it kept me alive a lot of times, because he taught me, he taught me, the real, mind your business, handle your business, and take care of business. And it wasn't, it, you gotta, you gotta look at the ins and outs and find your way. There's always gonna be a path. Don't, you just gotta find it. And that's the thing, like I'm a hustler. I ain't with being broke. So I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep, working on something. I'm gonna keep grinding on something, like my main grind is I go to work. I work 10 hours a day. After that, then I got my other little hustle, and it works. It's got me living. I'm out here. Living my best life. I'm at home. I got a house full of family. About to go inside. Give me some fun time. We got some games tonight. Where do you fish? Oh man, my favorite spot gotta be Loveland. If you ever been to Loveland, it's a hike down to the lake, but you go down there, man, biggest bass I ever caught and the biggest catfish I ever caught were at Loveland. I also like San Vicente. I like San Vicente because um, it's good fishing. Um, I always catch bass at San Vicente. I don't always catch my limit or my biggest, but I always catch some bass. Every time I've been to San Vicente, we're catching, But that's a bass lake, so you gotta take the boat out and go out there, and get it in. But that's the thing, if you don't get out there, you can't catch nothing. But at the same time, I go out to the bay. I go out to the San Diego Bay. I got a spot behind the convention center, not the Embarcadero Pier. See, that's the thing. I got a license, right? So I don't need to fish off the pier because the pier is for people that don't have a license. So I'll fish off the rocks, and then you can get jacked. The game wardens will run up on you. And say, hey, let me see your license. You got to have license. So me and my wife, we get our license in January because we fish all year. San Diego, it's always summertime in San Diego. You can't beat the weather here. But, like I say, when it's not too cold, we'll go down there, set up and fish. And we done caught some crazy stuff. One time the wife caught an octopus, and we had music playing, and I was videoing the wife holding the line up, and she had the octopus, and the octopus was going nuts on the line, and she's, standing there and the music's playing, and it looks like the octopus is dancing to the music. So I called it the dancing octopus. So we had that, and then another time, I caught two thresher sharks. I've caught a shovel nose shark there. I've caught a bunch of different stuff. I've caught what? Mackerel, stingrays, calico bass, sand bass. What's the other one? There was another one. Oh, a dogfish. I caught one dogfish. It wasn't that big though. But no, that's in the ocean. So, it depends, whatever's coming through that time. Because San Diego Bay is there. So it's you'll see me. I'll be doing a video out there again soon. It's almost that time. Yes, yes, yes. So anyway, anybody got any questions? Anybody got anything going once? Got anything going twice? You ever been Santee Lakes? Yeah, I've been there a bunch of times. If you ever go to Santee Lakes, here's the trick. Don't let them catch you, but go get some shiners at the bait shop. Get some shiners and go to Lake 3 and go to the island with the shiners. Put it on the hook, a number two hook, and no nothing else, just a hook. Put the shiner on, throw it out there, let it swim around. Guarantee you catch a bass. Just getting stoned here. Man, hey, I'm with you. Man. All right, everybody, if ain't nobody got anything, going once, going twice. See you next Friday, 9 o'clock. Tap in. You heard of Pat Brady? Pat Brady? Nah, I can't say I have. The whole, solitary confinement. Yes, the whole is like solitary confinement. That's like the jail of prison. So when you're on the streets and you get in trouble, they put you in jail. So when you're in prison and you get in trouble, they put you in the hole, which is solitary. But sometimes you have a cellie in solitary. Sometimes. It depends, sometimes you can't be around nobody. Get that northern light. I got that northern lights. Oh, there you go. Y'all doing too much, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to go, burn something down. I know where it's a forest at, and I'm about to roll it up. All right, everybody. I will see you next Friday at 9 o'clock. Thanks for tapping in. See you next week.